One single build is taking Guild Wars 2 PvE by storm by doing very good amounts of damage if you're not that good at the game, and an insane amount of damage if you're actually very good at the game and you're very good at this build. And I'm gonna teach you how to use it. Subscribe to the channel for more content of this. Go 5 if you want to support me. Get into it. So, this build is Fresh Air Tempest. And this entire build revolves around the fact that when Fresh Air, when you crit, you'll be able to go back to your Overload. And because you do so much damage on power, boop, let's say you go to fire, boom, your air attunement is back. And you can do it over and over again. So the entire rotation is gonna be around you going to air over and over again in order to do as many overloads of air as possible. I'm gonna show you a little bit of it right now just so you can see how much damage this build actually does. It's not gonna be perfect because I'm not the best player, and as I said before, this build does require a good amount of actual practice and also hands and being very fast if you really want to get to the max, which is 46k. But if you're not that good at the game, you'll still be able to do a good amount. Like, honestly, if you're just playing the game normally, you're gonna get around, I think, more than 35k. If you're actually going pretty hard, you're gonna get like plus 40k. And if you're going insane like Crone and all these gamers that it disappeared, like all these gamers that actually have been blasting and trying to get this build to the maximum potential, you're gonna actually do the 46k. And honestly, it seems like there might be a new build of this coming out very soon with, instead of Feral Elemental, with a Fiery Greatsword, which probably is gonna be way more difficult to use, but Feral Elemental is gonna be the easiest one because most of the damage just goes by itself. Now, what do you need for this? Essentially, full I'll link in the description the Snowcross build, of course. It's right here. Essentially, you need full Berserkers, Scholar Rune, Citadel of Accuracy, Citadel of Force, and Scepter and Warhorn. I'll talk about the traits very soon. Now, to be fair, you do need indeed precision infusions in order to get to the cap of 100 critical chance, but I didn't have them and I didn't want to use them because it's kind of annoying to get. You can do that though if you want to. So instead, I just went in and I changed some ammo pieces to Assassin to get 100. I changed my backpack, my amulet, and my head, and I got 100 exactly. Now you can probably use other food to get a bit more precision as well, but whichever is easier, whichever way is easier for you. And of course, the relic you're going to be using is the relic of the fireworks, as it'll be triggered by your Air 5 or your Overload Air. And because you're doing that all the time, it's going to be permanent 5% buff. And if you don't know, relic of the fireworks will activate and give you strike damage percentage increase when you use weapon skill that lasts more than 20 seconds. Well, 20 seconds or more. And of course, air, Overload Air. Well, I guess it counts because it's one of the main abilities of your spec, so it works. So there you go. You won't really be paying attention to that too much as long as you're keeping doing the rotation in the correct pace. You should be more than fine. Now the build is this one here. Of course, it will be in the description down below. A link from Snowcross and all the gamers that worked on that, of course. And the biggest things to think about here is obviously Fresh Air. Recharge air attunement on critical hit. Gain a ferocity boost when attuning to air. Every time you crit hit with anything outside of air, your air attunement will come back and you're going to be instantly going back to it. You also have other things like Transcendent Tempest, which makes it so once you are done with an overload, you'll get a buff of 25% damage. And 75% conditional damage, which is super cool, and you want to keep this up as much as you can. This is why you want to go to air all the time and prioritize your overload in order to keep this buff at all times present. Otherwise, you're gonna be less damage. You want to be very fast. Of course, also you have water. Actually, you can actually go for fire as well, and you'll see this in the Snowcross build as well. You can see that if there's a Heal Accuracy Tempest close to you, it's better to go to fire because otherwise you don't. That way you don't overcap on the same, what's the word, traits and benefits that water has that we're gonna talk about right now. So the thing about water is that it gives you Soothing Mist, which makes you, when you're on water, and you're gonna be going to water a lot on this build, you're gonna be recovering health from allies and yourself as well, which makes something like Ellie, which is kind of, you know, squishy. Way less squishy. This is actually a very tanky build for PvE. Super, super cool. And of course, you have other stuff that will make you have more healing as well here. And more health as well. And, you know, look at that. Game Vitality, Soothing Mist is more effective. Isn't that nice? Of course, you also have more damage here as well. And more damage as well here. That's mainly the big important parts of what you're, you know, what you're taking here. Not really that much to think about when you're actually playing the game. This is just damage modifiers. You do have this as well, though. Using a shot grants ally smite, granting an aura to an ally. Increase your outgoing damage for a period of time. This is one you want to use Feel the Burn on cooldown, off cooldown, of course. And honestly, most things off cooldown. And now we're gonna go for the rotation as well, as it's honestly pretty easy, right? Now there is a bit of a difference in what you're gonna be thinking about. I'm gonna go for the easy build, you know, the easy rotation first, and then we're gonna go for a few of the things that you can do in order to make it a bit what's the word? Harder for you, but also do way more damage. The first thing to think about is to have your Glyph Elemental, you know, ready on fire, right? So you get the little fire elemental, and of course also before you start doing your benchmarks, go to Snowcrows and get your golem set up perfectly so you can actually have your boons for yourself and the conditions to the golem so you can actually apply them. You just go here to the Snowcrows website. I'll leave in the description down below. Anyways, go to guides, getting started, go to the golem setup here. You set everything up as it's set here. Usually I just go in here and go to the golem spawner and I just golem settings, add conditions, and just put all of them. I know you shouldn't, because sometimes this will make you do more damage than you actually should be, and you know, I'm sure there's other exceptions as well, but I'm lazy and I just want to blast and I want to show you this. So, and sometimes even though it's not perfect, I just want to know that I'm gonna do more or less the correct amount of damage. Right now, I'm just gonna beep, get my, obviously, you know, my food and my ability ready so I can do the correct amount of damage. Have my elemental, and although my elemental is kind of running out, so now what I'm gonna do, because I was talking while doing this whole thing, I'm gonna go into my mount. Go into a mount, I'm gonna despawn it, go to fire. Oh my god, there you go. Go to fire, change, you know, get my cooldowns done with my special action key, get my fire elemental ready. Put it ready again, and there we go. Now, ideally, you wanna... Oh my god, the fire elemental... This is what happens when you click on the golem. It'll do that, and you'll be sad because you're gonna have to restart it. That will happen too when you're trying to get this build going. Kind of annoying, actually. But it is what it is. You just don't click on him until it's until later, right? Now, the big thing about here, as well, to start this, and this is probably a bit advanced, but it's something you should be considering, is that you want to start your overload beforehand and only go into the golem once it's almost done. You go in there, boom, you're done, and then you start blasting. Now, as I said before, the idea of this build is to go into air and do your overload air as much as possible, and at the same time change to other attunements, specifically water and fire, to do a bit more damage in the meantime, right? Now, what is going to be the rotation? You're going to go into air, as we said before, the little rotation that we saw there. And then you're going to be... I'm just going to restart my cooldowns. You want to be using your your lightning orb, beep, as soon as possible, after your overload is done. And go into... water. You can actually use your lightning strike before going there, as it's instant, and you can use it while casting other stuff, actually. So ideally you want to be using lightning orb and pressing 3 and 2 at the same time, and then go into water, right? Go into water to replenish your air attunement so you can get another overload going as soon as possible. Then you want to do 2 and 3 in that order, because water trident takes a bit longer, so that way you can switch to air very fast and be ready to the next one, right? So now 2, 3, you don't have to do it in that order, but if you want to do more damage, you're definitely gonna do it in that order. Now, when you're here, your 5 is not gonna be ready as I did here, but probably what's gonna happen is that your lightning storm is gonna be ready, and your air is not gonna be done. You're gonna have to be waiting a little bit for your overload air to be ready, right? So while you're doing that, you wanna be prioritizing your lightning storm, cast it, right? To do more damage, do a bit more damage, and this is where the first interesting thing happens. You're gonna see that every ability here, 3, 2, and Feel the Burn as well, will be able to be cast while you're casting other stuff, like Lightning Orb, like Overload Air, like Lightning Storm. This means that while you're casting Lightning Storm, you can just start blasting the other things as well, and then instantly go into the Overload Air. And while your Overload Air is happening, I'm just gonna restart this just for the Maybe it doesn't. There we go. While you're in overload air, you can actually press your 2 and 3 at the same time, or you feel the burn or whatever. And this applies for the entire duration. I'm just gonna go in there. Oh, look at that. I'm pressing the buttons, right? And as soon as that air is done, and you see the little effect that it appears here, because if that effect isn't there, your overload air did not cast, and you're gonna miss the damage. Let me just restart this. Why is it not? There we go. You're gonna... Oh, I fucked up. Yeah, you wanna, once you get your overload air, you're gonna see a big circle around you. That means that you actually did the damage. Boom, look at that. And then you wanna change to fire. Now you wanna do a 3-2 here, because the same reason behind water. 2 takes a more time to cast. So if you press 3 and then 2, you'll be able to go to air faster. And then you can just boop. As soon as you see that it's being pressed, you can go to air. And then repeat the entire thing again. I'm just gonna restart it just to show you a little bit what it is. I'm just gonna remove the golem here and put it again. And you're gonna see, I'm just gonna put my elemental because I'm lazy and I just want to show you this, right? You just want to go in here, air, get in there, boop, press your 3, press your 5, do water, go back to air, use your other stuff, right? Your signet, the lightning storm, continue pressing the buttons while you're waiting for air, press 2 and 3, go again to air, overload again, press the buttons as they go off cooldown, maybe go off. By there, water, buttons 2 and 3, and go to air again. Essentially is, hey, fire and water, buttons 2 and 3, different orders, water 2 and 3, fire 3 and 2, and go to air. Super easy. And of course, use your utilities, use your lightning storm on air, use your field burn off cooldown, and use your glyph elemental ability. You precast it before you actually start the fight, and you use your flame barrage as off cooldown as well. Super easy. You never want to use Signet of Fire because it improves your critical chance, making your crit cap, right? So there you go. That's about it. Now, for the things that you're gonna do in order to do a bit more damage, there's a few of them, right? First, in my notepad, a good amount of them. First, is actually position yourself in the correct spot, because for some reason, I'm not really sure why. I'm sure some people that know more about the game can actually tell me why, but overload air does more damage when you're farther away from the enemy. Now, this is something that is going to be very important to do a bit more damage, and you want to position yourself. I'm just, kind of staying in these little rocks to cast the entire overload of air, and then walking a little bit ahead to do the actual attack, and then I just stay like here, right? To get that buff of damage, right? And you want to be there all the time. Now, in a real fight, this is going to be difficult because you're actually going to be thinking about the fact that, hey, guess what? I also want boons. If I'm further away from the group, that's going to suck. Right? That's going to make me get less boons, less damage. So going in and out of this build is going to be something important when you're actually playing, right? Which is complicated, right? Now, it's a it's an optimization you can actually do, but it's gonna be difficult, right? But it's something to consider regardless. So when you're doing the benchmark, you want to just go in here, start your air, and then just once it's going in there, boop, move it a little bit there ahead and attack. Now, I didn't do it faster enough, so I kind of failed it. I'm just gonna do it again so it actually works. Boop, there we go. And I attacked it, and it's doing the damage. Now, that's the first thing you can do. The other thing that is gonna be very, very important for this entire thing is gonna be swapping attunements in the middle of casts. So, if for example, if you're in air, and this is why putting the cast time of putting the ability that has longer cast at the end before going to air is so important, is because in this case, for example, Shatterstone, it'll cast for longer, and in the middle of that cast time, you can actually switch to air. So you can do 3, 2, and as soon as that starts pulsing, you want to switch. And that way it'll be cast, but you'll be on air, not replenishing your overload air and doing, so you can start doing damage. And of course you can press your 2 and 3 and all these other things, right? So, super important to do. The same thing happens. Wait, actually it's the other way around. Oh my god. So, for example, in water, you're gonna be doing 2 and 3 because water trident is gonna be longer cast. So, and the important part of that is that you're gonna be able to switch in between that cast. So you're gonna do 2 and 3, right? And then when you see that pulsing animation happening in the little bar, that little boop, 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 you wanna go instantly on air. Boom, boom. And that way your overload air is gonna start pulsing down, and you're not gonna waste any time. But that cast time will still be applied, right? So it's a very small optimization, but very important, not only for this build, but any ally build. The same thing applies to fire when you're gonna be 3-2, and your Dragon's Tooth, you know, your 2 is gonna be casting for longer time. So you wanna, as soon as you see that your 2 is pulsing, boom, you switch, right? Now, this is going to be even more important on air, because you actually want to use your 5 eventually as a... Well, it's kind of like a... it's an optimization that you can do, but it's super fast, and I wouldn't recommend it because it's very difficult, right? But if you see the Crone video, you're going to see that he actually does it in the middle of rotation. You're going to see how fast he is with it. It's actually kind of crazy, and that's why I haven't really gone for that, because it's pretty insane. But this is essentially what you're gonna have to do if you wanna go to the 46k. Look at that, guys. Did you see that? Look how fast he pressed all the buttons. 5, 3, 2, boom. Right? Like, that's crazy. Well, actually, he did 3-5 here, actually. But that was super fast. You saw that, right? What they do, for what I understand in this rotation here, is that they do 3-5 when it's when 5 is off cooldown, and then 3-2 when 5 is on cooldown, right? That's my understanding of the situation. But it's a very difficult thing to do. Like, you could see like how fast they went there. I'm actually gonna make it like slower there. Look at that, guys. That was crazy. Even on half the speed, look how fast they went. And then instantly, as soon as I saw the little pulsing happen, they're gone, right? They're gone. And that's what you want to aim for. I'm not telling you that you should be doing that, but that's what you should be aiming for. Also, it is very important to tell that Phoenix is actually an ability that will be a little projectile that was going to go there, right? You can see there, little Phoenix going there. And the thing is because you have buffs on air that are not present in fire or water, you want that Phoenix to take longer to get there. That's why you want to position yourself a bit farther away from the boss, because that way, if it's a longer duration, if it's longer distance, it'll take longer for the Phoenix to attack. This means that when you're pressing it very fast, you can actually change to air before it lands, and therefore giving you the buffs of air when it does land. So this is obviously something you're gonna consider. This is why, and the same thing happens in water, right? Like, you want the trident to be applied once you are on air. So all these things is why you want to change to air in the middle of the cast, so you can get those buffs. And something that you're gonna have to be thinking about, and you want to be super fast, and why this build is super easy at the start, but super hard at the end. Like, the amount of fastness, the velocity and dexterity that you will need is a good amount, right? Now, it's not something impossible, for sure. It just requires practice, but it will require practice. Now, this doesn't mean this build is bad or too hard, because even if you don't do these things, it'll still do a lot of damage, right? You'll still do, like, I'm sucking at this build, guys. I suck at it. And I'm still doing, like, when I started, first try, 35k. Easy, fast, no problem. Then, to get into 40k, it took me a while. And I'm not even close to the 46. But, hey, I'm still doing good damage, right? And this is one of the reasons why I feel like this build is honestly pretty perfect in that regard. You really don't... it's easy when you start, hard to master. This is exactly what we want in Guild Wars 2. Not something that is super difficult to start with, and you're gonna do complete dog trash damage if you're actually not good. But if you really want to get there to the top, you can. And you can practice while you're practicing your normal rotation. That's super cool. Now, there's a few things that you can actually change in order to make it a bit easier. For example, in open world, you can change your Lightning Storm to Eye of the Storm in order to give you some super speed, some stability. You can change to Armor of Earth in order to give you protection and stability. This one will only go for yourself. This Eye of the Storm will go to 5 people, and both of them also breaks stun. You can also bring your Arcane Wave to do more CC, and you can also bring, I think it was Rebound, someone said. I think maybe that's the... Let me just check on the guide, because the guide literally tells you everything. I'm kind of, hey, they made the build, okay? I am just explaining until you. You actually have, you can bring... Am I blind? Oh, there you go. You can change Glyph Elementals, can be replaced for Rebound to mitigate one-shot attacks like Mind Crush in Demos. Very, very interesting. And you can also, of course, read the whole guide. It's very detailed, and you can see the whole rotation here as well, the loop and everything, if you're missing something, or if you don't want to watch the video again, of course. right? So yeah, it's actually pretty fun build, pretty easy build to understand. Air, water, air, fire, air, water, air, fire, and as fast as you can. And the more fast you go, of course, by not canceling skills, the more damage you will do. So super fun, super cool, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm playing it as well on my own time, and hopefully you guys can well, like it as well. I really hope that Arena doesn't nerf it. I don't think they will, because they just buffed it, and I think it's a very difficult build to play as well. But yeah, it's very difficult to play to the max level. So even though it does 46k, it's very difficult to actually get that in a real scenario. So should it really be nerfed? I'm not sure about it. Probably a little bit, maybe, because maybe 46 is too much, but I don't know. I don't see it. I don't think it's really that important. Most people are not going to be able to do that amount of damage anyways. We'll see, though. We'll see what happens. Regardless, I don't think it's going to be nerfed too much, even if it does. So I would definitely say that's worth putting just a little bit of effort in order to get this one going, to get that, you know, big amount of damage for very, very low effort. So thank you very much for watching, guys. See you guys around. Tell me if you have any questions or if I got anything wrong so I can correct it. Who knows? If I have to re-upload it, I have to re-upload it. What are you gonna do? Sometimes you fuck up. What are you gonna do? Well, thank you very much for watching, guys. See you guys around. Love you all. Bye. Bye.